Clay, this episode is very important to me. It's the one that I've been waiting for because it was written by none other than John Cochran, known to fans of the CBS Survivor game show series as simply Cochran, who is one of two perfect game contestant winners on the series Survivor, which has been going for 57 seasons or whatever it is at this point. But I don't know if you're a Survivor fan, if you're a John Cochran fan, if you're a fan of Harvard law students who win game shows, any of that inspires you for this episode. I would hope so.
I'm a fan of Tom Cochran, who once told us that life is a highway and that I want to ride it all night long. And I mean, who can argue with that, right?
It's a life philosophy that I think distilled down to a song is pretty much perfect. Do you watch Survivor?
I never have watched Survivor. I think when it first was on, I don't know. It was fairly early in the reality TV boom, and even then I was kind of tired of it. So it just never really, I don't know. I think the conceit even then for me kind of felt like, wait, so they're trapped on an island surrounded by camera crews. I don't know. It just wasn't. It was never my thing.
I think Survivor's probably the best concept of kind of a reality show or whatever. I think Survivor's probably like a top 5 game show of all time. It's gotten a little bit to this point where the meta is obvious and people know how to play the game, but there was a good long period where it was still not quite obvious how to play the game successfully, and it was really interesting in that. But this guy is an unlikely winner of it, the writer of this episode, but he's kind of a famous contestant who won the perfect game, which is you never get a vote against you at a tribal council and you win unanimously in the final jury, which is which is an amazing accomplishment in Survivor, I think, because the whole game is about making people want to vote against you.
Well, when you figure out how to make the best seashell brownies, then it gives you a lot of points with everybody else.
He applied my sunscreen so perfectly every single time. That's it. Let's talk about Terminal Provocations, which is the next episode of Lower Decks. I'll play a clip right now. We'll come back and break it down.
Oh, damn. This must be the beta ship's version of a badass.
Mariner's a total badass. And if you don't come clean, she's gonna your off.
Whoa! Fletcher, ease up, man. Guys, I'm not gonna do that. I'm so sorry.
Just give us the core, we'll go, and this can all be over.
What core?
Oh, please. Please!
Look, someone knocked Fletcher out and stole a nice linear core.
Are you accusing us of assault?
Get out of here! We don't know anything about a core.
That's it! You want some of this? Where's the core? Where's the core, man?
Guys,
Where's the
no,
core,
no,
dude?
don't undo your flaps.
You want to dance? I'll take you to the dance. I'll pick you up at your mom and dad's house.
You don't talk about my dad!
All right, so Terminal Provocations is the 6th episode of the first season of Star Trek Lower Decks. It came out on September 10th, 2020. Written by John Cochran, directed by Bob Suarez. In-universe date is 57663.92380. In this episode, the lovable but awkward Ensign Fletcher makes work difficult for Mariner and Boimler. Rutherford introduces Tendi to a holodeck training program he created. Clearly, the obvious joke here that I make is that the writers have listened to us, Clay, because they did everything in this episode that, or at least I've been saying that they should do to this point. And what it ended up with is some sort of weird analogous situation to like you're pining for some sort of sexual fantasy, and then it finally comes to fruition and you feel bad for the person you've done it to. Terminal Provocations does everything I wanted it to, and I don't know if I was right to want those things out of it. Not that I think it's a bad episode, but I would say it's darker comedy, which is what I was pushing for, and it felt more critical of Star Trek in a lot of ways. Maybe not critical, but like cynical is maybe a better description. And I thought I wanted those things, and I've been thinking about this episode, and I don't know maybe if it's just an example of the episode not doing the best job that it could with material that I would like, or what it was. But what did you think of Terminal Provocations?
This was my least favorite episode for the first half of it, because I feel like this had the weakest plot. I think the overall structure and writing of this one is probably the weakest for me. And I wasn't really sure where it was going until about the halfway mark, when everything started to snowball and get weird, which then after that point, I really enjoyed it. It
takes a long time for the Ensign Fletcher thing to tie into the training program situation where his plugging himself into that AI, much like Barclay does in the Nth Degree in TNG. It takes a little while for that to start happening and for everything to tie together. But I also like the second half of the episode. I like the play on Clippy from Microsoft Word, whose name is Badgie, and he's like I really wanted dark comedy like that, where he's stabbing people with like a shard of glass or something, and it's really strange and really un-Star Trek-y. But at the same time, it felt like it was the kick in the pants that I kind of needed it to. But I agree that the script getting up to that point wasn't really the show operating at its finest.
Yeah, it's just that it wasn't the layout of what was going on wasn't quite as interesting, because in the previous episodes, the Star Trek-y plot is usually pretty upfront as a setup for what's going on, and this one it was just like arguing over salvage, which wasn't super interesting.
Well, this is the other thing that I wanted to say to go back to your point about that. The other thing that they did here that I was asking for is there's a clear separation between senior staff and lower decks officers here in this plot. Like they're very divided from each other, where the action of the senior bridge crew is driving what's going on in the lower decks, but the lower decks adventure is disconnected from what's actually happening up above them. And I thought that was I thought that's what I wanted, and I thought that that's a better way for the show to actually go. And I think that this episode does a decent job of doing that. I think anyway. Yeah,
I thought that stuff was fine. I just I think it was the if you can call anything in a 22-minute cartoon a slow burn, it was the slowest burn of the episodes, because when they establish Fletcher, he's kind of a what the hell is this guy thing, and the Tendi and Rutherford plot seems like it's just going to be about Tendi getting over her fear of spacewalking.
Yeah,
and the senior staff stuff seems like it's just going to be this silly argument over salvaging a ship or whatever. But then once it kicks into gear and gets really weird, I thought I really enjoyed Badgie. I loved the plugging his brain into the warp core thing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I actually really liked Fletcher as a character. I thought he was going to be, maybe he will be, but
he'd be a great main character on the show.
He would be. Yeah. I thought there was gonna be some more malevolence to his character, because we had never seen him before, and they just kind of dropped him in as someone's like, oh yeah, that's Fletcher. I thought there was gonna be some sort of switch where it's like he was actually a mind wiping alien or something.
Sure.
But I really liked him. I thought he was a great kind of ridiculous. Like when he tries to start the fight, and he just like starts pulling his shirt off and like, you want to go? I thought that was I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, he's a little bit of he's a little bit heightened, and he I guess I would describe him, he's kind of like a lower decks version of Barclay in some ways, which is funny because he copies a Barclay plot in the degree where he supercharges his brain. But yeah, he's heightened, but he also feels like he belongs in the universe too. And I like the fact that he's kind of the true underachiever of the group. Like he doesn't really care, or he's not very good at his job of being a Starfleet officer. His inclusion was funny because I would like him as a main character, because I feel that he brings a tone to the show that the other characters, none of them really have, which is a lower decks because he's incompetent is something that they don't have, and I think that would be a nice personality to have as a main character.
Yeah, the one bit that I wish they hadn't done, because I think what you're talking about is a critique you could make of Star Trek, is that he complains at the end about getting fired, and I don't really know if you could really get fired from Starfleet so much.
Didn't what's her name in Picard say she got fired too?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, my point is like Starfleet seems like such an all-encompassing thing that it never feels like you would get fired. It's like you're in a giant union, so you're never going to get fired.
Yeah. They'll find a job that you can't fuck up. Yeah.
Like in Star Trek 2009, they send Scotty off to this, remote Siberian planet wasteland. They don't fire him.
Right.
Which I think would be an interesting addition that way. But and it also just sounds weird to hear someone in the Star Trek show say I got fired.
Yeah.
They don't really have jobs so much.
He can come back. This character
Sure.
could potentially return, I think.
Yeah, I kind of hope they do bring him back. I don't think he was a must-have for me, but I if they can find something else to do with him, I think he would be fun to bring back.
His I think what maybe one weakness, I don't know if it's a weakness, but both plots kind of revolve around characters who are not main cast characters, where Badgie is kind of the driving influence of one story, then Fletcher is the driving influence of the other story. I thought it worked okay. I think maybe that's the reason why I wanted Fletcher to be a main cast member, because the main cast members are secondary in this one, they do feel similar to each other. They again don't switch the pairings up. It's Rutherford and Tendi yet again, and then Boimler and Mariner stuck together.
A much more dialed back Mariner in this episode too, which was she was toned way down, and also I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a joke or what, that she keeps saying, well, that's not Starfleet. Starfleet doesn't do things that way. Like it seemed like something that we've made fun of on like Discovery when they do that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell if they were being honest or earnest with her, or if they were making like a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke or something.
She does seem toned down. I guess it's to play against Fletcher.
Yeah.
Because I would kind of want Fletcher's characteristics to be part of Mariner here. The other thing is, because it's a 22-minute episode, I don't think they really nail the point as to why they don't want Fletcher with them anymore. I guess it's because he's incompetent and they don't really care for him, but I didn't think the episode played him as unlikable enough where they would be happy to get rid of him at the very end. He seemed nice enough to them. He wasn't like a dick or anything, and it was just, I guess it's a reason you have to get rid of a character, or the payoff to that joke is that he gets transferred.
Yeah, I think it was just an incompetence thing, more than anything else, because he well, I don't know. after you pull something like that, I can see maybe not wanting to work with the guy anymore.
Yeah. It strikes me as funny that the other characters are competent to that degree. I mean, Rutherford fucks up by making Badgie strange or whatever. His programming isn't quite as good, but even then, that's influenced by the brain meld that Fletcher does with the computer. The other thing that they're doing here is they're both probably more in the Badgie sense. The Badgie one is more of what you were saying, which is to take a TNG concept episode or a TNG tropey kind of thing and then play on it. And here it's the holodeck goes bad, take it to its most literal extreme.
And I did appreciate, I mean, it's an easy joke, but I did appreciate when he's like, yeah, it's fine. It's totally harmless. It's not like it's Moriarty or Einstein, and just like going down the list of holodeck programs that have freaked out. Because when I was watching it, my girlfriend turned to me and was like, did all that happen in the other shows? And I was like, yes, all of that did happen.
Yeah, it's... Do you think that they mastered that kind of referential plot device here? Like, are they... Can the show succeed if it plays its plots like this, where it takes an idea like that and it just kind of does the lower decks flip thing to it? I found it semi-satisfying. I don't know what was really missing. I don't know if they need like more not explanation, but if they need to like tie it closer to the original lore or something, or if that's even necessary, or if maybe it wasn't that funny of a plot line. Like I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was like Aces type storyline.
Well, I don't know. I think I found the Fletcher storyline more successful ultimately, I think, than the Badgie one, even though the Badgie one might have been a little funnier overall. Well, I guess it depends. Because the Badgie one never felt like it excuse me, it never felt like it really shifted into the next gear. Because once he goes bad, then he goes bad, and then it ends up just being like this little cat and mouse kind of thing that they don't really lean into that much. Where they, if Badgie's murdering people inside the holodeck and they don't even really bring attention to that, where I feel like there's a couple things, jokes you could make about that. Whereas the Fletcher one, just gets crazier and crazier as it goes. Like first he turns out he was lying about the thing. Then it turns out he plugged this thing into his brain so he could try to get smarter. Then it turns out this thing turns into a sentient being that is starting to grab everything and trying to assimilate everything. And then it turns into them accidentally shooting it at the other ship and blowing the other ship up.
Yep.
Excuse me. So it's like that one continues to escalate. So I found that story more satisfying, I think, whereas Badgie was kind of like, I think there were more jokes you could make, but it ended up being sort of like a one joke story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when they started going to different like places in the holodeck. I thought they were going to do more of that. I thought it was going to be like, they jumped to the Bajoran marketplace and then they'd, jump to, Kronos or something. I thought they were going to do a little bit more with that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty simplistic. It just relies on the comedy of like the Badgie thing, murdering people, the hyper violence, and then the sort of turn of the Skywalker-esque thing at the end, where he calls him Dad or whatever when he unplugs him.
When he broke Badgie's neck, I was legitimately horrified.
Yeah, I think some people are probably going to say it's almost too dark, and I was wondering if it was like if I what's the parable where you get what you want and it's not what you realize that it's not actually what you want. I don't know.
I think you're looking for be careful what you wish for.
Yes, isn't there a king? Is that Midas's thing? I guess Midas kind of learns
you might
that.
Are you thinking of the monkey paw situation?
I guess monkey paw. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like an Aesop character, but it must be the monkey paw. And it might just be a thing of the script. I like the edge of it because to me, I don't know how funny it is to just straight parody thing. Like if you had that holodeck story and Badgie wasn't killing people, I don't know if it really is all that effective. Like the over the topness has to happen. He has to go completely bonkers for it to be kind of funny. If he just goes bad, it's a cute reference, but it doesn't really make me laugh.
Yeah, and he didn't go crazy in a way that was like based on what he was programmed to do.
Right. The story's linked there, effective. Like the stories take a long time to get going, but I like the connection of the guy hooks up his brain to the thing, which causes Badgie to go lose his mind as well because the ship is going haywire.
Right. Yeah. But like, yeah, Badgie doesn't go crazy and start like, he doesn't escalate through running his routine incorrectly. And then eventually becoming more actively malicious and killing people. He just kind of like goes 0 to 60 high on violence pretty quick.
Yeah.
Which is, again, 22 minutes. You got to do what you got to do.
One thing I think this show does not do very well funny. I don't know if we've talked about this to this point. There's a comedy that can be found from bleeping expletives. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this show does it well. I think Arrested Development is like the pinnacle.
Arrested Development is the master at that.
Why is theirs funny? Why is theirs funny, I guess, would be, you can go with your point, but like, I couldn't really understand what the difference is. So why Arrested Development is so much like more hysterical than when Lower Decks does it. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Well, I was just going to say when Arrested Development, God, my voice today, went to DVD, they unbleeped a lot of that stuff. Huge mistake.
Yeah.
Because it's way, way funnier when it's bleeped. And I don't know if it's because of how casually the swearing is put in, or if it's because it's a network show and you're not expecting people to swear. So when they do and they bleep it, it's funny. I don't know. I think it's because if I had to take a stab at it, I think it's because they never draw attention to the fact that they're swearing.
Yeah.
Whereas in shows like this, they tend to draw a lot of attention to it. Like that becomes the joke that they're swearing and they're bleeping it out.
Yes.
And in that case, I don't think it works. Like I noticed the last season or so of Rick and Morty, they've been doing it a lot more, and I don't think it's as funny as it is in the earlier seasons where they do it less.
Yeah.
Because when you bring attention to that stuff, maybe I sound like an old man at this point, but even more so than I have previously. I think when you really bring attention to that stuff and overdo it, it just feels like you're trying too hard.
Yeah.
Like I've been watching the HBO Harley Quinn cartoon. They dial it down in the subsequent episodes, but the pilot for that show is like I thought it was almost unwatchable because it
Just
was
for how dirt, like for how expletive laden it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's full of swears that aren't bleeped out, so it's everybody's calling each other cocksuckers and go fuck yourself, and it's like super 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 violent.
Yeah.
So like the Joker's throwing acid on people and they're just like graphically melting into pieces and stuff. And I don't know. I thought it was like it seemed like they were reveling too much in having an R rating.
Yeah.
Which doesn't appeal to me, and I don't find it that funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in this one, it what was the? Is it? I can't. Was it a Fletcher does it right? Fletcher. They bleep Fletcher, or do they bleep out Ransom? I can't remember.
No, they I think they bleep the captain. They bleep Freeman. The only one that I thought that worked was the alien captain says "fuck you" at one point, and
that was
they
good.
bleep.
That was good. I like that one.
It made me wonder, like, what I think the difference is a lot of Lower Decks' bleeps that don't work feel like they are just natural sentences that they added a swear to for some reason.
Right.
And they're bleeping it. And what makes Arrested Development work in some ways, I just think of there's the joke where Stan Sitwell offers Job a job, and he's like, Job, we need you to come work for us at Sitwell Enterprises or whatever. And Joe just walks up to him and gets to like right in his face and goes, fuck you. And then it smash cuts to him and go, and then I accepted. And so there's this comedy around it's funny that he responded so aggressively to Stan Sitwell. And then the joke is that he's just like, oh, and then I accepted after I said that to him. And Lower Decks doesn't do that. But the reason I thought that the captain worked is because Freeman leading up to that point is like, we're doing diplomacy, we're doing the Star Trek way, we're doing everything. It's like we need to work together a peaceful resolution, and the alien captain just goes fuck you and then throws the thing at them.
Yes.
And that's funny to me.
Yeah, my favorite from Arrested Development is always they can't arrest a husband and wife for the same crime. And he goes, Dad, I'm pretty sure that's not true. And he just goes, I have the worst fucking lawyers.
And Arrested, because it was live action, they had to always frame it so that the actors were covering their mouths so that you couldn't read their lips as they were talking.
Yeah.
But that's something that they do consistently, the expletive stuff, and they don't really. That one joke with the alien captain was the only time I thought it was like, okay, that was worth having someone bleep that swear out or something like that.
Yeah, because it's like it works. It works more if there's two ways that I think it works. If the thing that they're saying is just part of conversation and isn't like super over the top, or it's not really over the top, so they it's just a regular part of conversation, or if it is so over the top that the amount of bleeps being used becomes comical.
Yeah.
But if it's just like, oh, that person said something ridiculous and dirty, like, so, get our cocks blown off. I don't know.
Or we need to get the F out of here. And there's no, it's like, you're not highlighting anything by adding a swear into let's just get out of here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Use clean language, kids.
That's right. This is a George Carlin show. It's dirty. Outside of that,
Jerry
I thought
Seinfeld never had to swear on stage.
Get some material about Hot Pockets and get back out there. Yeah, I thought this episode was okay. I don't really have much else to say about it, really. I kind of liked the concepts and everything were what I wanted. I don't know if it really executed on them as strongly as I would have expected, but at the same time, it felt serviceable. I don't know if I'm concerned. I do think that the main cast needs some kind of injection into it, if not another character, just kind of a little bit of differentiation between Boimler and Mariner in this episode are of the same mind, which is to service the Fletcher character, but also it's like they don't really have any conflict here. And what you were saying, Mariner felt a little bit off because she is so non-confrontational with what's going on in front of her.
It almost seems to me that like if you flipped who was involved in what plot, it actually makes a little bit more sense, because if the Fletcher plot was a Tendi and Rutherford plot, I think it probably makes more sense that the characters are a little bit more laid back and what's the
rolling with it?
Yeah, reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put Boimler and Mariner in the situation in the holodeck where they're faced with a murderous holodeck program. That feels more in line with something Mariner would have her, be all over.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not that I don't think it doesn't work the way that they did it, but it just, if I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, it kind of seems like they would be more at home in each other's plots. Well, that sounded weird. You know what I mean?
Fill those plot holes. I agree, and I think that's just kind of strengthened by they haven't mixed up the characters at all. Not sure why. I would do it at this point, and I think I do like that idea of Rutherford and Tendi would be more amicable to what Fletcher is doing. Like the plot here almost makes you feel like Fletcher is a slightly higher rank officer than them, so they can't push back against him too much. But he's not. He's just one of them.
Especially given what the plot is, which is Mariner and Boimler leave their job in order to go do something, go to a concert. I think Tendi and Rutherford would feel a lot more stress and guilt doing that. So if they were the ones who did it and they were like, oh God, I can't believe we're doing this, and then they come back and it turned out everything got fucked up, I think that would be more impactful to them as characters than it is on Boimler and Mariner. The
choo-choo joke didn't work for me at all, unless that's some reference that I'm not getting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
You add another chew and it becomes a choo-choo-choo dance? What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I just assumed it was supposed to be an alien thing that we wouldn't understand because we're not space people.
Yeah, I think the character-wise, the reason why that joke didn't work is because Mariner and Boimler seem so interested in it to a degree that I can see. Well, I don't really see Boimler being interested in it. It seems like the kind of thing, I don't know. Would Mariner... I see Mariner being somewhat cynical towards that in my understanding of how her character works, but maybe she would be into it. I don't know. It just wasn't a funny joke, and it seemed like it exists only just to give them a reason to leave Fletcher by himself, which is one thing or another.
Just going to a concert, and the thing that the concert is something ridiculous and that we never see, which it's fine.
The other tangent of that is the division of the senior crew and the lower decks. I like the cut between the senior crews working on this problem, and it cuts to Fletcher doing like a cantaloupe puree stand or something out of the replicator. He's drinking that juice. I like that dichotomy. I like they've gone too far with the senior staff, but I like the senior staff to be more. I would recalibrate that to have the senior staff be more stuffy and more Star Trek, and have the lower decks crew just be basically a college frat house on some level, or like it's like a dorm party or something. Like I think that works better for the show. Yeah,
I think so too. And how did you feel about the senior staff plot overall?
I thought it was fine, but with my conception of what they should be doing, which is they're engaging in a Star Trek plot, which is slightly comical because the ships are fighting with tractor beams against each other. But it worked for me as something is going on up there and the real action is down below. And in that case, I thought it was perfectly serviceable is what it was supposed to be. The senior staff in that case doesn't get the jokes, really. There's nothing funny about that, but they do a fine job with it, I thought. Did you like it or did you dislike it?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was, like I said, I think it was probably the least interesting. But part of that for me was that the setup is pretty uninteresting. It's pretty mundane, but they don't really much at all. Like they play it, aside from the security guy wanting to blow, they play it fairly straight.
Yep.
Because I found it funny that they were just. That they're throwing pieces of broken starships at them and they can't fire back because they don't want to start a war.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, but I felt like there was more they could have tapped into as far as how mundane a mission this actually was.
Right. If they weren't, they have the need to put a joke in there, but if it was just the diplomacy of talking to these space pirate people, I guess they do need jokes in there. It's a hard balancing act between whether or not the jokes are distracting or if they're an effective setup for the lower decks characters down below. I thought this was fine. At least I'd be interested in seeing more setups like that. Going forward. All right, I guess we're done with this one. Let's. I
was going to say the one thing that I didn't really care for was I didn't like the engine room sound joke at the beginning. I didn't
yeah?
think that. Yeah, I didn't think it really paid off to anything that interesting.
Maybe
Yeah,
this betrays my fandom. I didn't recognize any of the. I know they can't make the engine noise, but I felt like the noises they were making were not close enough to me to be accurate. Like no one made the TOS like pingy sound. You know, like
right.
Maybe I would have liked the joke more if it actually sounded like the different engines or the engine rooms of the ships. And maybe they do, and I'm just not realizing it. But no one made that weird like ping ping thing of the TOS engines and so, or the TOS bridge noises and stuff.
I just didn't think. Yeah, it didn't. I liked when Ransom looked around the corner and he thought they were starting a cult. I thought
that's
that
the
was
exact
funny.
same. That's the exact same joke as last episode, wasn't it? Where he went down and they were all doing something.
No, because this is interesting because I've had the same thing happen. What you're remembering is the preview for the next episode.
Oh, am I?
Yes, because
really?
we've done that before. There has been stuff that shows up in the preview that I have remembered as I'm watching the show. I was like, didn't I already see this joke? It's like, no, that was the preview from last week of this episode.
Oh,
unless I'm completely forgetting something that happens in the last episode. But I'm pretty sure what you're thinking of is the preview of this episode that you saw last week.
Maybe, yeah. I watched it and I was like, did they just exactly copy the same animation that they did there to have Ransom come down again? Or are they trying to set up a runner or something where Ransom comes down and sees them doing something strange and it's like, what the hell is going on down here? Interesting. That's it, I guess, for Terminal Provocations.
The way I would have done that joke, I guess, is if you're doing everybody's making the engine room sounds, have one person do it and just play the actual audio of the sound. Yeah. And then everybody goes, yeah, that's it. That's right. Or do it the other way where you do that and everybody kind of pauses and goes, that's way off or something. You know, the joke being somebody actually gets it and then you either react accordingly or negatively to it.
Terminal Provocations is done. The next one is called Much Ado About Boimler. I know that much at this point. I don't really have any new thoughts about this. This episode feeling like it fit in line with the other ones. Lower Decks is still acceptable, like a B to me, like a B of a show. It's working on its comedy, I think, trying to stretch it out or stretch into new ways of doing the comedic stuff. I like the setup for this one, and I like the construct of it. I don't know if the execution was really my favorite out of everything so far, but
yeah, they're working things out. See what happens as it keeps going.
There's only a couple episodes? More. 7, 8, 9, 10. 4 left.
10. Okay. Yeah. And then right into the 3000s for Discovery, right?
Yep. Should we? I can clip this here, actually. The Discovery trailer. Do you have any thoughts about the Season 3 Discovery trailer? It came out. I watched it once. I don't know if I'm prepared to give comments about this at this point, but if you are, maybe I can feed off of it.
Well, I've poured over every second of that trailer.
Frame by frame.
Thoughts. Yes.
Yep.
First of all, her hair. No. I thought it looked... I continue to be cautiously optimistic about this because I hope that the setting of the far future is enough of a change that it allows them to tell their own kind of stories without being beholden to canon and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because it's such a strange show that they are at the same time hamstrung by canon, but also don't care enough to be hamstrung by canon. It's really strange.
You mean before they made the time jump? That's the problem.
Yeah. Like they positioned themselves in a no-win situation as far as canon goes, but at the same time they don't really care that much.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how their storytelling changes, if it changes. I don't love the thing where they're like, it has a name. It's called The Burn, because it just seems like another mysterious bullshit thing that they got to investigate that's going to have, you know, a late season twist that you're either going to see coming a mile away or is going to be dumb or is going to be both.
Yep. Or as the user in the Discord posted that thing where it's just like, they're not talking about Burnham's effect, right? That in the future it's become abbreviated to this. It's kind of like the guy who Hodor. It's like Hodor from Game of Thrones. Like it's just lost the meaning over the game of telephone.
God, I hope not. If they did that, it's totally totally like understanding how ridiculous it is that they do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping I'm curious to see how they handle things. My biggest worry is that I would say 75% of the reason the stuff I like about Star Trek is the iconography and imagery of Star Trek.
Yeah, they have a line in this one. They're like, Starfleet isn't about the ships. It's about us spending time together, motherfuckers.
Yeah, it's also, in that case, not about me watching the show.
Right, I know.
It's because like I get worried that it's going to be like, well, we're in the future. Starfleet doesn't exist anymore, so you're not going to see uniforms. You're not going to see ships. You're not going to see whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems to be that there's some sort of that, at least immediately, they don't jettison all that stuff. So I'm hoping that it can stay Star Trek without completely losing. I hope that if they do lose that stuff, it can stay Star Trek instead of just turning into, season 4 of Lost in Space, or it's indistinguishable from The Expanse or something.
It's got to be about bringing
about The Expanse. I know it's very good. I haven't watched it, but I'm just using it as an example.
It's got to be about bringing Starfleet back, right? That seems like it is the setup where this is a show built around Burnham giving those kinds of sort of like speeches, like the way that she ended season 1 would be kind of the same thing. It's like, we are Starfleet, all that stuff. I feel this is going to be the same as that one. It seems like the structure, at least at this point, is that the Discovery crashes right when they go through the time thing, which I'm kind of interested in. Obviously not enough where they can't fix it, but it's stuck on the planet's surface for the time being. And they have to get around that. They meet some new people, and society's gone to hell. I just don't. My fear here is that if it's a show built around Discovery exploring what it means to bring Starfleet values back, Discovery's never shown that it really cares about that kind of storytelling. Yeah. So it's like, it'll just be a lot of action kung fu sequences, and then in the last episode, Burnham will be like, and we've learned why Federation matters at this point. You go, okay, fine, that's sure, whatever.
I hope they start the season with Burnham talking to the guy from the future, and she's like, quick question. Did that bomb inside of Kronos ever go off?
The burn bomb?
Yeah, the burn bomb. Yeah. But yeah, like there's an element to this that I know it's the same people running everything and whatnot, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like, when you hear stories about when they tried to do Superman in the late 90s or the early 2000s, and whoever the producer was like, I got two things. I don't want him in the suit, and I don't want him to fly. It's like, okay, then what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are you making a Superman movie if he doesn't wear the S and he doesn't fly? What else? What's the point? So I'm hoping it doesn't get into that territory where it's like, I don't want him in the ship, and I don't want him in those stupid costumes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my major concern, is that if it's about that kind of thematic thing about what it means to be without hope and then to bring hope back into it, it's again, it veers super closely to modern politics at a time where I don't think anyone is receptive to that kind of stuff. Like if it's too closely related to what the current cultural zeitgeist is like, I think people are like, this is annoying, or you don't have enough time to like reflect on it. Really, it's like it'll be so of an era that when you go back to it in 10 years, you're like, that doesn't age very well.
Yeah, this is a little bit off topic, but Amanda and I just recorded Wreck, the Spanish zombie movie, and we both didn't really respond that well to it. We had a hard time getting into it.
I loved it. I haven't watched it recently. I loved Wreck. I thought it was really good.
I had not seen it before. I mean, it's a good movie. It's like I can watch it, go like, okay, I can understand why people like that, but I just had a really hard time getting into it. And one of the reasons that I was thinking that maybe it might be hard to get into a movie like that at this point is because we are currently living through a hastily handled outbreak.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching this movie, and I found myself siding with like the shadowy hazmat guys that are trying to shut the building down and like give people shots and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, listen to these guys. I know what's going to happen. Everybody's acting like assholes. I've been watching that every day on TV. I don't need to watch this here. Just somebody trust the hazmat guys who are trying to contain this shit and stop it from spreading.
Why is no one mentioning the CDC guidelines currently? What's happening here? Like we're missing some plot development. Not too much. I still, when I have to come upstairs and the light switch is at the top of the stairs or whatever, and so I'm going upstairs into a dark area, I still picture the monster from Wreck, like coming out of running down the hallway at me or something. Yeah. It's very scary. Yeah.
Not to go too much into spoiling our coverage, but that was the element that both of us actually started to respond to. Like the rest of the zombie stuff, we were like, yeah, it's fine. It's a zombie thing. And then once they got into that weird attic, we were like, oh, okay. Now
it's a very scary final scene. It's mostly what I remember the movie for outside of that. But yeah, it's a scare. It's a good scare. Discovery trailer. Final point. I've mentioned this on Discord and Twitter all the time. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast. I don't understand why the font mashups are so terrible for this franchise at this point. They keep the Star Trek graphic the same. It's always the same font. And then they change the lettering behind the show name, and Discovery's got a new font. Nickelodeon's is the worst offender because it has the Nickelodeon brand. Yeah. Then it has the Star Trek, and then it has like a kiddie version of Prodigy, I think it's called. It looks terrible. It's like, who the fuck are these graphic designers that are designing this, and why does no one push back and be like, we have to make the fonts look like each other, or at least like complement to each other?
Yeah, I haven't really noticed it too much on the live action shows, but that one, the Nickelodeon one in particular, is egregious. It's objectively awful.
Yeah, it's unprofessional. If you turn that in, you'd be like, this is awful. Like, I'm paying you to do this. But yeah, Discovery has changed its fonts, and it's just kind of a strange thing that they do. I don't know why they do it. It's not like I can't read Star Trek and I need it in that font, so like just change it to make everything look consistent. But
it's funny because I very clearly, and maybe it's just a matter of immersion at this point, but like in my head, I know exactly what TOS font looks like. I know exactly what TNG font looks like.
DS9 is iconic to me.
Yeah. Enterprise less so, Voyager less so, but like, those are all fairly iconic fonts at this point. Discovery, gun to my head, I couldn't tell you which one they were using. You know,
I think the Enterprise one, I think, is actually a semi-default font on computers at this point. So you can use the Enterprise one. But the other ones are more designed than that. I think that's why it sticks out. That's it, I guess. Anything else about Discovery's trailer? No, I don't think so. On a scale of 1 to 10. How excited would you be after seeing that trailer? Did the trailer amplify your excitement or decrease it, or did you not change whatsoever for Discovery?
I'd say I'm about the same. Like, there was nothing in it that really piqued my interest more than it already is piqued. And aside from, and the thing where they start talking about the burn, had me giving me my own version of Discovery acid reflux, where I'm like, all right, they're just going on to their same old shit again. So I'm hoping for the best, but preparing for what I consider to be not the best.
I had a mix. I was annoyed that you see so much of Burnham in the Red Angel suit. I had forgotten that she's in the suit to start that off.
I hope that suit doesn't play into the story somehow.
I hope that thing is. I hope she plummets to Earth and it's destroyed, and she survives because of the shock absorption of it or whatever.
Yeah, I hope it's like Back to the Future 3, where she lands like on a train track. And then she has to get out of the suit.
It's stuck to the train. Yeah, I didn't like that mostly because it reminded me of season 2 and the worst parts of season 2. I liked seeing the ship wrecked for some reason. I can't even really explain why I like that, but I like the concept of Discovery being wrecked somewhere. Didn't like the burn, and didn't mind the Burnham talking to that other guy. That seems to be something that's going to happen. There's nothing really that just felt like an interesting. I was interested because I was like, well, why do they relate to each other at this point? Like, does she meet him immediately? Go, I'm from 900 years in the past, and he goes, that's terrific. Let's have a relationship.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, if it's anything like her relationship with Ash Tyler, yes.
Yes,
because it's not built on anything other than plot contrivances. So
we're just going to have flashbacks to 930 years ago of Ash Tyler being jealous that he somehow knows about her in the future with her new relationship, her new beau. Yeah, that's it. So Discovery Season 3 is coming up. That's it for Lower Decks. Thank you very much for listening, guys.
Wait, is that guy That's not the guy from the short Trek, is it?
No, it's a different. I made that mistake. It's not that character. It's a
Okay.
different character.
Because I was going to say, if it was the guy from the short Trek, 150%, it would be he saw her picture in the log on Discovery while he was
Right.
living on Discovery and fell in love with her or some
Yep.
shit like that.
They'll
Some
flash
stupid
back to
Dracula shit.
they'll flash back to a clip that they never shot at the time of him looking at the picture or something.
Yeah,
that
it's-
time.
watching the same 30-second video of Michael Burnham on repeat
Yep.
100 times while he was alone on Discovery.
Thank you very much for listening. Patreon.com/The Penske File is the best place to support the show. If you want to support the show, that is, you get extra stuff, extra podcasts, and a special thank you goes to our patrons, the captain tier patrons, Christian Pouch, Tarek Latif, Chris Tinsley, Mike Burnett, Sean, Cardinal Doomsday, Jump Mango, Matt Cutler, Ben Douglas, Neil Brandon, Kyle Barrett, Samuel Custer, Nick Sergi, Bradley Killens, Matt Ross, Arun Bandler, Nathan Elliott, Eric Johnson, Andrew Cholog, Grim Santo, Poindexter G, Dwayne Hackett, Jordan Cooper, Derek Zajac, Russell Elledge, Kevin Reyes, Vault 13 Hero, Stefan Minton, Darth Moss, HH28, Mad Curry 6, Jacob 123, Mike Harris, Jakey's Gamer, Patrick Seba, Captain Raisin, Kevin Lowry, Eric Santuan, Corey Martin, William Scheisler, Timothy Cooley. Thank you very much. We're 930 years in the future after reading all these generous patron names. Do you have anything you want to say, Clay? Rec is coming out, but probably not for 6 months.
No. So we actually play a little fast and loose with our Rotten Horror Picture Show scheduling, because as it stands right now, Rec was going to come out the week of Halloween, and we didn't totally feel like Halloween doesn't
Halloween
scream
enough.
Rec to me. Yeah. So that Halloween, that's going to be delayed until the following week, and Halloween week we're going to do Fright Night.
Okay.
So, but before that, next week we've got Candyman, I think.
Yes,
It's
it is
coming out.
Candyman. Yeah, that's,
Candyman?
I remember you mentioning that at least.
If I say it
the
two
last
more
one.
times, will Tony Todd show up in my background?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've got a badass, which I couldn't tell you what that was for $1 million right now. The week after that, so
There you go.
and we're actually also going to be starting a push. Amanda and I want to do some patron content for you guys. We want to start covering horror franchises that are not on our list. So like all the Friday the 13th movies, or Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Sequentially through everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But in order to do that, we have to hit a certain Patreon goal. So if you want to help us out, you can head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Penske File.
Mhm.
We'll see what that consists of over there.
Yes. So we hit a certain reward. We hit a certain award monthly amount, and they'll start coming out with those things for.
Notice that we're not saying what the number is. So it's like when you go to a website to buy something and it says price revealed in cart.
Yes, that's
That means that it's really expensive.
And also, that's the only way to get full Voyager coverage if that's going to ever happen.
That's
That's
true.
one of the goals
Yeah.
for that. So,
But I'll tell you, if we cross the barrier to get to Rotten Horror Picture Show Patreon content, we are very
Knocking
much
on the
within
door.
striking distance of Voyager. Yes.
Yep, knocking on the door. Carefully staggered is the way I would describe that. I guess we're done. That's Terminal Provocations, which reminds
That's
me
a
very
weird title.
Well, it reminds me, what's the other one? There was another one that sounded something similar to that. It was called Temporal Edict is the other episode that they came out. That's it. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Patreon.com/The Penske File, and we're done. We will see you later.